Hello and welcome to this latest TMT Talks with me, Oisin Lunny, produced by the good people over at TMT Analysis. In this episode, we'll be discussing the big topic of mobile onboarding and engagement and why authenticating customers via their mobile device is more important than ever in this digital first world. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Pat Flynn, the co-founder of Nettzer, a company specializing in the onboarding of customers for many of the world's leading telecommunication companies. And he's also the host of the excellent Good, Bad and Ugly Innovation podcast. Pat, how are you, man? Welcome to TMT Talks.
Yeah, Oisin, thanks very much. Thanks to TMT and yourself for inviting me on board. Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm sure when I saw your name, I said, that guy sounds very like Donald Lunny, who's a famous Irish musician for people who don't know. And turns out it's your dad.
Indeed it is. Yeah, I mean, when people meet us, they say that he looks too young to be my dad, and I look a bit too old, which is, it's always has been thus. But yeah, he's over in Dublin. We keep in touch. I'm living over here in Spain, but he's always keeping busy. He's got a Facebook page. He publishes lots of great videos and clips, and he is very much looking to gigging again, and as we're getting out of the pandemic. So watch this space. I hope to see you, Pat and Fergal, at one of my dad's gigs in the near future. So I'll try and sort that out. Brilliant. So Pat, like myself, you're of a certain vintage, but you have actually been really focused in the whole telecommunications space. You might even say you are a telecommunications veteran. Talk to us a bit about how long you've actually worked in the space and been focused here.
Yeah, well, there's that dreaded word, Oisin. But anyway, I started in telecommunications as an engineer, and I worked in various parts of the world, Ireland, the US, and Japan, nice. Designing telecommunications equipment. And when I got back to Ireland, I worked for Vodafone, was Aircell then, in operations and product. And then I joined a famous company in the SMS space called Aldescon, which became Logic Aldescon, which was one of the two big SMS companies back in the day, right? And from then, my career has been really in messaging up to Nettzer. So I went through the various things that people generally go through, like network operations, product management, and co-founder of OpenMind Networks, which is still going as an SMS infrastructure company. And lately, Nettzer, which is digital onboarding or digital selling for mobile operators.
Yeah, fantastic. So you really have seen the whole meteoric rise of mobile. I mean, it prompted The Economist to rechristen our global species as Phono sapien, and that everything you can do on your mobile device, we always do on a mobile device. And that's true. As soon as it's on your phone, you don't really bother about doing it everywhere. I know this from my own experience. So, you've been in the game a long time. You've seen this stuff from day one. Have you been surprised around the growth of mobile as a channel? And, have you been surprised with its growth in the past year, or is this something that maybe you could see coming?
Well, I wish I could say I saw it coming. I mean, obviously COVID was a surprise, but it's just it's accelerated everything at such a rate. Now, in preparation for this, Oisin, I looked up some of the stats, which, at face value are still outstanding. So, for example, in the US, more than half of all internet traffic is mobile. So that's something to think about.
Wow.
If you look at mobile only e-commerce sales in the world, it's about $3.5 trillion, which is a huge number. And actually, m-commerce, mobile commerce, which is part of e-commerce, clearly, has actually has taken more than half of the whole e-commerce market. So mobile has become so important with the lockdown, and it's really outstanding. The industry, I've criticized the industry for lack of innovation in some areas, but in the particular area of this space, CPaaS, A2P, SMS, mobile identity, authentication, this is really a hot area now, and it's great to see companies like TMT Analysis and Nettzer obviously, getting in there and coming up with new ideas of how customers can engage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we saw a rise in e-commerce. There was some statistic from McKinsey saying that e-commerce rates went up more in the first quarter of last year following the pandemic than it did in the previous 10 years. So we're really seeing accelerated innovation, accelerated adoption of a whole mobile first customer journey. But coming back to yourself and your career journey, talk to us a bit about how you took all those years of different experience and plugged it into creating the company that is now Nettzer. And what was that process like?
Yeah, well, for my sins, I'm a lifer in the startup space, which is both good and bad. It's really interesting. It's great. Any idea you can commercialize, you can do it. So there's a couple of things. One is make sure you have the team. The other thing is make sure you have the market. So back in the day when we started up companies, we'd start with the product and then go for the market. Now that's obviously totally reversed with the lean startup. You go for the market, and then the product comes along as you see the market develop. So that's one of the things we did with Nettzer is we talked to a lot of mobile companies, realized that they have that onboarding, particularly when COVID hit, is an expensive and regulatory-driven process. So, for example, most regulators require that there's a legal identity for the customer, and that's for various reasons, including credit and national security. And usually identity is driver's license or something like that. So what we did was we took that to the mobile device. So if you're onboarding with a mobile operator, you can be done now just on the mobile device. It can meet full legal requirements. And what we do is we image the driver's license, we image the customer's face, we make sure they match together, we check a lot of other details and security aspects. And we can say, yeah, that's Oisin Lunny and he wants to come on board with you. So that's what we do. The big advantage, to be honest, is it's anytime, anywhere onboarding, 24/7, anywhere in the world, you can onboard a customer. Maybe someone's coming to travel to your market, you can onboard them before they leave their home country. But it's also a big thing in cost. In Western Europe, anyway, the cost of retail onboarding, if you go into a shop and you onboard, if you look at the loaded cost, it's about 180 euro, approximately, around that price. If you do it by digital means, it's 10 euro, fully loaded. So it's a huge difference in cost. It's anytime, anywhere. And that's really the compelling reasons for Nettzer. And that's why operators are talking to us and implementing our systems.
Fantastic. I mean, that's quite the price differential, I would say. But if there's anybody who's watching, maybe they're wondering, about why do people use other ways of onboarding? I mean, is there an argument that mobile device onboarding isn't quite as effective as onboarding customers in a traditional way, or is it as effective, or is it more effective? How did the two things compare?
Yeah, no, it's clearly a lot cheaper. It's 24/7, anytime, anywhere. So someone comes home late at night, sees an ad on the TV, they can onboard straight away. Or the various reasons that people have. One is conservatism. Like there's reasons to have retail shops as it gets the brand in front of customers. But there's a question of how many shops do you need really? And we know operators are closing the number of retail shops they have. And the other thing is sort of what you might call complicated onboarding, which might be someone mightn't have a good quality ID, or it may be a business onboarding, which we can do as well, by the way, SME onboarding. But they may need business licenses, various other forms of ID. That can all be done. But in terms of a simple, straightforward customer onboarding, the mobile you can do it in 2 or 3 minutes. That will be given back to the operator, and the operator would then approve that customer, for example. But I think in the future we're going to see less retail, and we're going to see more. It's clear the way the wind is blowing here, Oisin.
So talk to us a bit about, speaking of e-commerce, we heard that stat from McKinsey earlier. There's been a huge rise in e-commerce over the lockdowns. Now, has this increased the need for companies to identify and verify exactly who their customers are?
Yeah. Well, the short answer is yes, but I know you're looking for us to tease it out a bit. If you think about it, companies like TMT Analysis and so on, they actually, if you go through the selling process, like there's awareness, interest, engagement, and sale, right? So the latter stages, I think, and I'll leave it up to Fergal and John of TMT analysis to say that this is true. This is where the customer gets really interested, that companies like TMT analysis can say, you know, this is actually Oisin and that is his phone. And yeah, he might be roaming right now, but that still is him. We know he is. And so that sort of AI-driven infrastructure knowledge is really important to build trust between the customers and the merchants. That there's a common level of trust. The merchant knows the customer is real. The customer knows the merchant is also, you know, a valid merchant. But where we come in is at the very end of that, if there's a legal requirement to identify the customer. So we're in a slightly different space. But yeah, I can only see this getting, as you're aware, there's been a lot of extra fraud due to the increase in mobile commerce and in general. And it's important that the industry, you know, use technology like TMT analysis and Nettzer technology to make sure that the full transaction is trusted and verified.
Folks at home, if you want to find out more about all of this stuff, I would just like to point you in the direction of TMT Analysis, their website, because they have a wide range of resources available about how mobile number intelligence can be used to help companies globally do everything from communicate more effectively with their customers to preventing fraud when onboarding. So take a look at the website, tmtanalysis.com. It's well worth a visit, and it's got a dedicated page all about use cases, which can maybe be some inspiration for you. It's well worth a visit. So Pat, speaking of the lockdown and speaking of all those delivery vans coming, how have you been spending the lockdown yourself? Have you been ordering lots of stuff for your mobile by any chance?
Well, certainly more than previously, yeah. It's actually, so what I've spent in lockdown was I spent it putting on weight, for one thing. Then we bought a dog. That was another thing. And actually, when I go locally with my dog, the amount of lockdown dogs is just incredible. And they're not cheap either. I remember the good old days when you get a dog for free. Well, those days are gone. But well, I've got to enjoy some nice whiskies. I've made a project to start going through some nice Irish whiskies. And if I wasn't in the identity business, I think I'd be in the whiskey business, Oisin, but I'd probably drink my own stock, so that wouldn't be so good.
Yeah, there is. I have a similar, you know, affectionate relationship to things like whiskey and a nice bottle of wine from time to time. I don't think I really could be in whiskey or wine retail. You know, I just don't think that would be a good idea at all. And what have you been, you know, anything you've been listening to or watching during the lockdown? Any good films or series or box sets, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I ended up buying, like, I've all the streaming, pretty well all the streaming services now, because they're obviously giving offers to get people on board. But yeah, so just revisited some of the old classics like Breaking Bad and Mad Men, and just this is a really a golden age for television. You know, where films used to be what you might call, you know, I'll say adult interest. What I mean is like where the plots are complex and there's no holds barred, and they're really intriguing characters. I mean, this is a golden age for it, and it's amazing what's available now. So I've enjoyed that. And then in terms of music, yeah, listen, you're talking to a big music fan here. I've gone back, was say in terms of new artists, I had a podcast with an artist called Richard Scobie there, who's just released a new single, but he's a great artist. You can check that on the Good, the Bad, the Ugly Innovation podcast. But I've been listening to Marconi, and you know, Italy has this strange way of producing these composers who look like accountants from the tax department, and the music they produce is just absolutely stunning. So I don't know if you Ian Audi, Ludovico Ian Audi. You're a music man, you know, but the music these guys produce is just incredible. And then the usual, I've gone a bit Oasis lately, you know, so getting down with the kids when I was a kid. So
you know, music is that gateway to our past. I use it myself. I kind of, you know, dive in, get brought back to a different time and place. It's just wonderful. And yeah, one of the best gigs I ever saw was Oasis playing in Roskilde in Denmark, and I think that was 93 or 94. It was one of their first big gigs, and they smashed it. It was just amazing. Speaking of music, as we're on the topic, we do have a Spotify playlist called TMT Talks, and we invite all of our VIP guests to add a track to the playlist. So You mentioned a few influences and a few likes there. Do you want to choose a track and add it to our playlist, and we'll share it with the listeners?
Yeah, I'd love it. So this is a short. It's about 4 minutes long. It's Ian Audi's Life, and
Oh,
it will just draw you in with its beauty and its energy. It's just a fantastic track. But yeah, please listen if you haven't heard that before.
oh, for sure. I'd say everyone is looking forward to diving into that piece of music right now. So, listen, thank you so much for joining us, Pat Flynn. That was absolutely brilliant. That's our latest TMT Talks with me, Oisin Lunny. And I just wanted to say thank you, Pat. Great to see you.
Thanks,
And
Oisin.
And thank you to everyone at home for watching and listening. So for our next TMT Talks, I have some very exciting news. We're going to be coming to you on location from Mobile World Congress here in Barcelona. We're going to soak up some of the atmosphere of the most important event in mobile, and we'll be speaking to some of the most important people in mobile. So please do look out for that, and please join us for these next episodes. Don't forget, we can carry on the discussions via the hashtag TMT Talks. You can email me at ushin@tmtanalysis.com or post a comment on the TMT Analysis YouTube channel. We can also carry on the party with that amazing track added by Pat there via the special TMT Analysis mixtape on Spotify. And the link for that is going to be in the show notes. So thank you all so much for joining us. Be sure to listen in, and I will see you next time from MWC in Barcelona.
Thank you.